Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, welcome. We have an open session before the regular agenda starts. Is there anyone here that wishes to address this board with an issue, a question, or a concern that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, with that, I'll ask the clerk to take the roll.
Supervisor Michael Lanko,
Here.
counselors Alex,
Here.
Fiorenza,
Here.
Dueling,
Here.
Hood, here, Mannion,
Here.
Ruckdashop.
Here. Okay, thank you. We have a couple of public hearings here today. So the first one's at 6:05.
Yes.
Okay, with that, then we'll jump into the first one. It's the 6800 East Genesee Street request for zoning map amendment. But then this way.
Issuance notice.
Okay.
Thanks. I'll go ahead and answer.
Ready for me to read it?
Clerk to read the notice.
Yes.
Notice of public hearing, please, that the pursuant to the provisions of section 264 of the New York State Town Law and section 192, 121 of the DeWitt Town Code, a public hearing will be held by the town board of the town of DeWitt on Monday, February 12, 2023 at 6:10 PM at the town offices on the question of amending the official town zoning map to formally place a MUV-2 mixed use overlay on the parcel located at 6800 East Genesee Street, tax map parcel ID 065-03-01.0. 6800 Partners LLC is the owner in the town of DeWitt. A copy of the amended official town zoning map is on file at the town clerk's office and may be examined by any interested persons during regular business hours prior to the day of the hearing or at any time. This was published in the Post Standard on February 1st, 2024.
Turn it over to the town attorney.
Town board has received a request from 6800 East Genesee Street. The public may know this better as the old Track and Racket Club across from Wegmans. This is the culmination of years of attempting to get mixed use village overlays officially into our zoning map and integrate them into our buildings. What we're doing here today is a public hearing, so I'm following all the procedures that are in section 192-121 of our town code. We have an application from our owner who I hope is here. Andy Day is here, thankfully, so he submitted an application to our town board. He'll come up and he'll explain what he's planning on doing there at 6800 East Genesee Street. They have already been before the planning board, so our planning board has reviewed their project and made a positive recommendation to the town board. And our code instructs us to receive the recommendation from the town board, to receive the owner's application, and to hold a public hearing to discuss whether we will amend the zoning map. Years ago, before I was here, the town designated certain areas to be part of the mixed use overlay. So on I can't show it on here, but on our website, you can see a mixed use village overlay map, which will show shaded areas across town that are eligible for this. And this was one of those areas that the town board in the past decided to allow mixed use. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that our board has actually amended our zoning map or considered amending for this purpose. So it is a big deal for our town. I know that we want to go more towards mixed use. And I'll welcome Andy Day to come and explain his project.
Yeah, I'll just introduce with the motivation behind mixed use development. But there were certain business corridors in the town of DeWitt, which were commercial properties and businesses long before any of our time. And those businesses tend to be a building or a structure with parking in a curb cut. And the goal of the mixed use development program was to establish more of a village type setting, where the ultimate end goal would be something more architecturally in line with a village of Skaneateles or a village of Casanova. Town of DeWitt's long been criticized as a municipality without a town center, an area that you could call its downtown. So we identified those business corridors such as Erie Boulevard, Genesee Street, Thompson Road as major trafficked areas, of which first floors would remain commercial, include offices and professional space or uses such as doctors, lawyers, financial consultants, barbers, and retail, small shops and hair salons. And then also allow residential occupation of the same properties in a more of a village walkable, commutable area. And so this is the first structure, and ask the owners to take over, but they're looking at that building that currently exists. And it'll be a mix of business along with 15 apartments. That, please, Andy, take it away.
Last public speaker.
Yeah, that's okay.
Not really. Well, thanks everybody for hearing us and being with us and whoever's here to talk about us with us. Appreciate it. Well, everybody knows the building. It's Albatross. And we see a bright future for it. One of the things we've seen is that we learned about being from here, is that it's a great place to apply it. People want to be in that area as residents. More and more people want to be apartment renters. 81's going through there, and so it's a travel corridor. And as far as the place to be, a great spot. That building currently is not attractive whatsoever. We bought it anyway, knowing what we can do with it, what the location can bring as far as tenancy, whether it be commercial or what we hope to apply as a residential upstairs with the continued medical commercial downstairs. And, by doing these rehabilitations to the building, the exterior can be brought into today. If you're going to build it, you wouldn't exactly put that footprint there, but we have what it is. We have to work with it. By doing what we're doing, it's going to look like it was designed to be there. I feel like it's going to be something pretty to drive by and a destination that people want to be from or work at versus something that maybe not. Thankfully, our neighbors have brightened the block. The rest of the block is really nice. There's a lot of connectivity between us and the village streets behind us. I don't want to say village, but you get it. There's a lot of houses and sidewalks back there. We're a gateway from them to toward Wegmans and us up across that street, but maybe someday that'll be more possible. But anyway.
I'm Christian Freeman from Keplinger Freeman Associates Landscape Architect. One thing that I just like to bring up is we've been, as you know, working hand in hand in the work sessions with the planning board. We've done a lot of things in order to kind of raise the bar and meet that MUV requirement. One of the things that we've done is try to welcome pedestrians just as much as vehicles in a way that We have an entry sign, we have planting that extends out. We're gonna remove a berm that kind of has some old shrubs that are just tired and act as a barrier. And work in the exact opposite way that the NUV is supposed to welcome, in kind of the street front way. And then we're working with multiple elevations of doors in a building that's, to be perfectly honest, not easy to work with. And so we're putting in the work to add in seating and some seat walls and functional space around the building in an attempt to give it that higher quality feel that's comfortable for the residents and the businesses alike. It's going to increase visibility in and out on that first level. And just overall raise the quality of the site that is there now.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else that you wanted to say? All right, I'll entertain comments from the board, and then I'm gonna open it up to the audience. If the board wants to defer, I can also open it to the audience and come back.
Andy,
Go ahead,
really,
sir.
really quick, I think we know, but for the folks that are in the audience, do you plan to change the height elevation, bring the building up higher? Because as you noted, there is a neighborhood right behind you.
Not a bit, no.
There we go. Thank you.
Are the apartments gonna be rented at market value, or will there be any affordable housing units within that property?
It's completely market. There's not enough, and with the current costs, to put that place back online for what you wanna see, there's no chance to make it any cheaper than we can. It's done.
Any other questions? Comments from the board?
And what do you envision on the first floor? All retail, office? What's your gut?
Medical office is there now with Coldwell Banker, and that's going to be the flags continues.
So Coldwell Banker is probably gonna stay?
Yes.
You have some medical tenants that will stay?
And we're hoping for a couple more medical tenants or office. There's some smaller offices now, with that address. It's pretty good, good ask.
The architect has done a really good job of managing the layout so that there's an entrance for the apartment folks and then doors and entrances for the businesses.
Departments gonna be entered from the side or the front?
Both.
Both?
Generally, the apartments, the closest entrance to the stairway that goes up to the old track and racket.
Yep.
To the latest tenant was the gym upstairs.
Right, where the elevator is there?
Side entrance toward all these.
Yeah.
Entry. That'll generally be where the apartment tenants go in. But we're reinstating a central corridor to the building, which was eliminated through all the cut and
Yep.
paste through the years. So either entrance will, for any of the doors that can enter anything in the building.
I do have a follow-up. You mentioned like the Wegmans plaza over there. Someone walking across the street. Have you thought about like the timing for someone to walk across safely? Or the light, is it timed that pedestrians could safely get across the busyness of Genesee Street? And just go over to Liquor Square? I live here.
I lived in the town of DeWitt since 2009, I think. Originally in Fremont Hills and now in Brittonfield Britton Knolls up by, medical complex up there. I'm at Wegmans every day, seems like it. There's people that do cross and people I know that cross that live in the Maple Drive area. I haven't asked them how well they do, but I've seen them do it, on a daily basis. I would like to make sure, but I'm not.
And I only ask because I've never done it. I'm just wondering.
It can happen, yeah. There's crosswalks there and our town does what it does to make sure people are safe, yes.
Actually, it's a New York State DOT controlled
Right.
road. And they have timed the lights so that pedestrians can. Somewhere in the pipe dream that I have for the town. The creek, Butternut Creek flows under Genesee Street, just to the west in Wegmans. There's 3 box tunnels there, of which one of them could hold the trail. we have a trail along Wegmans now from Butternut Tree. We'd like to get the sidewalks on the south side of Genesee Street connected to that trail underneath, so folks could walk under Genesee Street and not hit the cross. 6, 7 lanes of traffic, but that conversation involves New York State DOT. We've had it several years. We're trying to acquire some of the property. It may happen in my lifetime. I hope. It's something that we're working on. So with that, any other comments, questions from the board? From the audience? Peter, please stand and state your name for the record.
Yeah, I'm Peter Lotto. I live on Kittel Road. I have basically two questions. One, I think is easier than the second. Is there an artist rendering of what the building will look like? What your vision is? And is it available anywhere?
Yes, we submitted it to the town, so it should be available. If it's not, we'll make sure it is available. We've done 360 views overhead, down the street, up the street. You'll be satisfied.
Perfect. Is it online? If it's not online, Peter, I'll make sure that it gets there.
Yeah, well, I'll forward it to you sooner.
Okay. Second question, do you envision any changes to the traffic pattern in and out of that parking lot?
No, it's a less intense use, so if anything, it'll be,
So you're not gonna be
all these puts more traffic through there than,
Poster Lane or the Kittel Road, at least
no,
not in my lifetime.
we are not adding the traffic to that light, in or out. So if we're actually decreasing it. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And see, Ed, I didn't even ask you about Kittel Road.
I'd be happy to talk to you.
Another time.
Hey,
Tony.
Thank you, Tony Anello. I live on Kittle Road. I spoke to one of the people who had been working on that building, and they told me you could build it higher, add to the height. Are there any plans for that?
no, no, it is possible, it's possible to go to 4 stories with the engineering, it's possible to go to 4 stories with that. We're gonna take it for what it is, build it and leave. Not
That's
leave,
a possibility in the future.
leave the development. Yeah.
How about the surrounding area, the landscaping around there?
Oh, we're giving it a nice
Sorry?
upgrade. It'll be a nice upgrade.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do sort of a patio seating area that's surrounded by little seat walls that undulate on both entrances. It's gonna be some stairwells with plantings on each side and then accessible ramps, and we'll have both entrances will have accessible spaces near to them, so
Both entrances, you're talking about
the front and the side. Yep.
How about the back of it? That is on Poster Lane.
That just has like a utility door, right?
Poster line? You mean the south face of the building?
It borders, the back borders on Poster Lane, and you're also bordering on the houses on Kittle Road. Will there be any change in that landscaping?
No, there'll
No.
be dumpster houses put in, so the dumpsters look better, but other than that, there's really nothing else going on.
Yeah, it'll be screened, but
There's that 13 or 14 foot berm back there already that you guys can't. see.
Yeah, my concern was, are you changing anything that we need to know about?
no.
But I don't, you decide, but look at.
Good luck with that. I think sure they do.
Thank you.
Tony, just to add, the buffering is a requirement. Anytime we have a commercial use up against a residential area. Buffering, it would never get through our planning board without a maintenance of the buffer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
McGregor. Ron Lang.
Yes.
I'd like to speak in favor of this project. If I can. For those that don't know me, I own some property in that area. Aldi's, Salve Bank. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great start. We have spoken about your vision for many, many years, over many, many years. So I am in favor, but I wish the board would think of one more thing. That corridor between 481 and Linden Corners is the most traveled, the most visible, the most important corridor in the town of DeWitt, in my opinion. And I'm sure perhaps you share in that opinion. Why the one property gets an overlay district. Look at all the other properties that are there, the 75 to 100-year-old homes that are there converted to offices. Why not change the zoning?
It, can I?
Please,
It's in place. It's a matter of the process for the projects. All of the properties in that corridor have eligibility. So if you came forth with a project, it would be accepted. Part of the process is it would go to the planning board. It would get their recommendation. It would come back to this board. It's this board's way of staying involved in the actual project, so that the law was set up. So everywhere we have the potential for mixed zoning or mixed use overlays, the project would come before the board on an individual basis. So if you had 3 properties and you had a project and you were gonna construct the village-scape setting, it would come back to this board after going through the early process of the planning board.
the reason for my comment would be that if the zoning was changed throughout, up to Howard Hanna, okay? And all those properties, all those old properties in between. Behind the business transitional district area, there's also residential that's not going to exist, all right? The first 300 feet.
But that whole strip is eligible. And project could consume the entire corridor.
What I'm saying is if you change the zoning, you may find more attraction to developers and whatever coming in, knowing that they can take out and acquire that whole strip and present the plan. I'm just giving that, as an idea to improve the entire area. I would love the entire area approved, but I am in favor of the plan. That's the only.
And I'd be interested in hearing more about how that would accelerate or promote the process. Because obviously what we've done, this has been several years, and we believe we set the table for these types of projects, and they have not come forth. So
I'm sure it's not a surprise to you that over the years, I've spoken to just about every owner.
Yeah.
Along that strip, but it's all individual, and to change the zoning, to put it all together. Like you say, even if it is all together and the zoning is changed, it still has to come before this board. And so I just pose that so that there's no issue of one property being changed, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you, and it's good to see.
and I understand what you're saying. So
Thank you.
you and I are probably the only two that lament that this didn't.
For years, we're getting gray.
Anyone else? Please stand, state your name.
My name is Sandra. I'm wondering if at all the traffic and will be accepted.
No, our use, well, we own the property. Easement through our property to Aldi's.
So the traffic pattern will.
No, that's not going to change. No, that's something that Bob and his group actually paid for and it can't be changed. It's needed.
In terms of changes made in terms of like vehicular access, we've revised some of the parking, so it makes a little more sense and added back a little more greenery. Because the area was drastically overparked for its current use, not as a racket club, but as its current use, because my understanding was as the racket club went, it was very full and underparked. So currently, we're gonna revise the parking and make it easier to navigate on our site.
Hey, thank you very much.
If you drive to Aldi's, please slow down.
My suggestion to the board, it would be very beneficial for us who are sitting in the back, if you have microphones here, so that we could hear what these people were saying. We could not hear that back here. So if you have a microphone up here.
We do have a mic. The room is mic, so. We need.
Speak
for you.
When,
Yes,
just saying, when the person was speaking to you, you couldn't hear him. I could
okay,
hear you, but sorry.
all right. I'll try to give a Reader's Digest summary of the presentation they made to us. Again, the building was difficult to work with, but they're gonna keep the existing footprint, so the same size, heights of the building. There'll be a second story apartments. The first floor is gonna remain commercial. They have two tenants in there now. One's medical, one's the Caldwell Bank. Four tenants in there. Okay, that are gonna stay and they're open to increase the medical use, the parking, accommodate each uses, their separate entrances for the residential and the commercial properties. Did I miss anything? The groundscape will be improved, the gathering space, the presentation of the buildings will be more architecturally pleasing and inviting from the streetscape. They're gonna eliminate a berm and connect to the sidewalk across the front.
And they take a look at the path
Yes,
behind the berm. There's a path, I don't know if you're aware of that goes to Poster Lane. It's used very, very often. If you take a look at that, it'd be appreciated. Sure.
that's the berm to the rear of the building, the berm to the.
I used to take care of it, but
Yeah.
I'm getting really old then. Thank you.
Excuse me, included in what? Included in what?
Is there any other
I just wrote
questions,
it.
comments for the board or for the property owners?
How many units?
15 apartments upstairs?
What's the bed?
I'm sorry?
The amount of bedrooms, are they one bedrooms, two bedrooms?
There's ones, twos, and what you'd say are 2.5s, so a two with a, an office.
Yeah, if I could just, my name is Bonnie Strunk, I live on Kenny, not in Kittle, yeah. But just as a follow-up to what Peter was saying and what has been presented to the board in the past, none of the paperwork, there was a site plan application made to the planning board. None of the paperwork with the planning board for 2023 or 2024 is online. So Peter isn't able to access the information needed to find out what this application is. It's certainly not the fault of the developer. I gathered that they presented all their paperwork to the town. It's not online. People can find it.
They might not know about it.
It would help and people have a public people.
Posted it.
People are somewhat limited in what input they can have in this. If the information presented to the planning board, which makes the recommendation to this board, is not available to the public. And that request has been made in the past to have that information available, not just for this project, but for every project the planning board is considering.
We agree with you that this material should be posted on our website. Apparently, it's under a new software right now. My attorney's telling me that the public wouldn't know that, so this should have a separate link on our.
Right, there is a.
It was posted online. It's a program called Civics Plus, and it's been there for less than a week. So
Under the planning board page, but the planning board is not,
it's under the planning board.
but they're, no, they don't have any of their stuff.
It's not. So that's again.
We'll look at updating the planning board paperwork on the website.
You have, your packet for tonight's meeting has a couple of pages of information.
Correct.
That is available, but it doesn't have the actual application. It doesn't have information on how the planning board has processed this and reached this recommendation.
I'm sure you're aware, but it's been since COVID that we've been largely understaffed in that department. We've been making strides in restaffing and getting new procedures in place. So I apologize if it wasn't online, but it's our intent to make sure that these things are available to the public.
Bonnie, I will send you a copy of the minutes from that meeting, and we should have all the minutes posted on the website. And so I can look at mixing that.
So the agendas are posted, but the actual projects are not posted. You follow what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah, they have a separate cloud, and I'm not sure how that works with storage or anything,
But it's not available.
but,
The point I'm making is it's not available to the public,
okay,
just as a preliminary.
okay.
Secondly, I'd like to ask, is the board considering the undated recommendation from the town board that says zoning map amendment? It's page 36 of the packet that is included in tonight's agenda.
Yes.
That paperwork does not comply with section 192.121.3C3 of the code. So the public to understand that the town code doesn't need to be followed in these applications. I understand there's a great interest in having this type of development, and this sounds like a wonderful project, and it's not really even a question as to the particular project, although it doesn't, the statement from the planning board, the approval from the planning board, the zoning map amendment doesn't comply with section 3, so how does this board make a determination when the procedure set forth in the town code hasn't been complied?
The procedure has been followed. I think you're looking at the different criteria that the planning board reviews.
It's not addressed in the determination.
I could,
I'm looking at a page 9 in our packet tonight. It says zoning map amendment, the town of DeWitt Planning Board recommendation. Then there's a recommendation. It's laid out in 3 paragraphs, of which this board then has the.
Bonnie is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Bonnie, is that there are
There are
6 specific criteria that the board did not specifically do in their recommendation. But that's up to the planning board. I mean, I can reach out to them. You know, it's a little late now. We're at the public hearing.
It's like now, it says shall consider and make findings on the following matters. They haven't done,
They may have, it may not be in that recommendation, but they may have done so.
well, how can this board make a determination if you don't know if they've made the findings?
Semantics.
It's a procedural question. It's just a question, does the town code mean something or? And does the change for zoning applications mean something?
What is the,
Yeah, so what's the sum and substance of your comment?
So
Ben, I'm not a lawyer and I didn't sleep in the holiday inn last night.
I'm simply saying the procedure isn't being followed.
And Max Bonnie's saying that in 192-121, section C3,
C3,
that there are certain specific criteria that she would like the planning board recommendation to say, and it does say it in our code here. Bonnie is saying that our planning board did not give a proper recommendation, it sounds like to me, because they did not go through each of these details and recommend to the board based on these criteria.
And so are you telling us that there are criteria that are not met in this project? I'm reading the statement right here, it says according pursuant to the application. Blah, 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 that the town board amend the zoning map pursuant to section 192-121 of the code as to the parcel which is the subject of this applicant to modify the zoning mixed use vote overlay floating district MUV, and the floating district is, I think, what I'm referring back to Vaughn's comment is us establishing.
This like it's like the town board did that when they signed the mixed use floating district to this area to begin with. Right.
I
But I don't know.
that could be one reading, but why have the requirement then if you're saying that everything that's included in this meets those requirements? How does that?
I think Bonnie would like us to not act, go back to the planning board, the recommendation, and then do this again, I think is what she's suggesting.
Again, I don't I hear what you're saying from a procedural standpoint, but I'm not hearing a valid reason. Something's slipping through the cracks, you know, tell me which one of those criteria will you feel this project's in violation of?
But since the paperwork for the project isn't online and I can't review it, I can't tell you that because it's not available to the public. If the information were available to the public, members of the public might have some input on those particular issues.
I'll leave it to the board. Thank you.
Ask the developer if
Yeah,
the plan to make a recommendation on next Thursday for actual 1 to 6 criteria.
Yeah.
Do this again in 2 weeks for approval. We've done the hearing. We don't need another hearing.
right.
I need a more specific recommendation from the planning board based on what Bonnie's saying. That's,
Is the 2 weeks critical to your calendar?
Every day is critical as far as costs go, but you guys have to get your ducks in a row, so.
The planning board meets Thursday.
Next Thursday.
next Thursday,
Next.
Yes, next week.
next Thursday.
You guys understand the planning board chair. I think this is just first time this has come before us. We
Right.
just know the next time the planning board knows they have to make a specific findings on it.
They have to go through each of the 6 criteria.
I do say as I read it, it does say follow that.
Bonnie's not wrong.
No.
Bonnie's not wrong.
Let me just, could I just,
But they haven't told us.
The planning board may have considered all these things, Andy, and I'm sure they talked about them. It is not written in their recommendation to us, and that's Bonnie's correct. And that she feels that we should have that in order to make a decision, because that's what our.
In their minds, they feel that, from what I've heard, that you guys need to say, yes, this project is good to put the SCP2 on.
Correct.
And then they will act.
Correct. That's what we're trying to do, but Bonnie has,
but so.
it has all to do with the planning board recommendation that's made to the town board.
Could I just ask, what is the next procedural step after this approval?
This project goes back to the planning. board.
Yeah.
And it runs through the planning board process until it receives a final site plan approval.
So what you're saying is it's possible that they considered all of this, but because the material isn't online, the public would have no.
It's possible the recommendation didn't go through each of these criteria. They may have spoken about it at the meeting and gone through it. Like, the recommendation is not specific enough to add these criteria, and you're right about that. But we can redo it, Bonnie.
Well, I. Consider the criteria, you know, could you just.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people here. Should we take 5 or?
All right. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this issue? Please stand and state your name, sir.
My name is Charlie Lester. I drive by there all the time. I was just wondering, has this project undergone or will it go through a state environmental quality review? Is it necessary for a zoning map change or zoning text amendment? Is that possible? Does it require it?
Seeker, when the project's ultimately developed, it would go through all the secret.
Okay, so there's another part where
Every property that's developed will goes through the same process.
I used to work for the planning commission in New York City. That's why I asked.
The planning board handles that side.
Okay, yep.
And the clearing itself is the lead agency.
Yeah.
And then our engineers.
I didn't know where we were. Okay, thank you.
And this is the initial.
Just trying to change the zoning map.
Yeah.
And none of this stuff has anything to do with finding the end after planning.
You got the choice.
Here.
Right.
Okay. All right.
You go with us to planning.
Please stand, state your name. Bonnie, if you can keep your comments directed now to the board.
It's 331 Danbury Drive. I didn't hear the answer to Councilman Alex's question about the affordable housing. Is there going to be a mixed housing in the project?
There's not.
There is not going to be. Why is there not going?
It's.
Do other buildings we have affordable housing?
You are?
Yeah.
No, not currently. No, it's my first, second building, actually my first apartment building.
I mean, considering the lack of affordable housing in the WIC, I think we should always have something in our projects. I don't care how unaffordable it is, but it should be something that is a whole something. I think that big projects that have this high-end properties in there. My opinion.
So you are aware, Linda represented us for years on the county legislature too. She's newly retired, but we welcome her continued activism. Anyone else? Comment, question? Okay, with that, I will, yes, ma'am, please.
It's a continuation of Ms. Urban's comment. Will there be, I mean, I know he doesn't have affordable housing, but can that be recommended? Is it not possible for, giving her comments? Is it possible that you could perhaps put 1 or 2 affordable apartments in there?
It is not, sorry.
And the reason being?
The costs to buy the building, pay the taxes on it, pay all the utilities on it, and do the upgrades to make it apartments from what the basket case it is now. It's totally not attainable there.
So affordable housing is not required for a project to do it. I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
No. There is an awful lot of conversation in that area right now, and there has been projects in the town that have offered it. Most of the projects with affordable housing make application for state or federal financing. And almost all of those projects that come before us do include affordable housing. The state and federal governments will not supply dollars. This is totally a private project right now, and there is no state or federal involvement, and therefore there has not been any, to my knowledge, discussion of affordable housing.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? With that, I'll close the public hearing. And then I believe I'm hearing from the attorney that the decision is going to be deferred 2 weeks on this problem. Yeah,
Send it back to the planning board.
send it back to the planning board.
Here's your recommendation. We'll schedule another public
Yeah.
hearing.
Okay. If it's critical to you, but it's not. A week from this Thursday is the next planning board. Then the following Monday is the town.
So it's only
Yeah. Few
4
days, yeah. We wouldn't have time to schedule this special. All right, again, I thank you. I'll ask the clerk to read the notice on the firefighters exemption public hearing.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Please take notice that pursuant to the provisions of section 20 subdivision 5, the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, a public hearing will be held by the town of DeWitt on Monday, February 12, 2023 at 6:05 p.m. at DeWitt Town Hall. Question of amending chapter 170, article E11, is that 7?
Article 7.
7. Section 170-22 of the DeWitt Town Code to reference the applicable statute, section 466-A of the New York State Real Property Tax Law in regard to the volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers tax exemption. Copy of the proposed local laws on file in the town clerk's office and may be viewed by any interested parties. This was posted in the Post Standard on January 28th, 2024.
Okay. In Reader's Digest summary, this law was on the state books where anyone that volunteered, it was an incentive for a volunteer fire department or EMS corps was eligible for an exemption on their property, their residence, and the state updated that law, and our assessor has brought this before us, and it needs to go through this board to gain approval to be in line with this, the state's new exemptions. Our assessor is here tonight. Al, is there anything you wanted to add to this conversation?
No,
They're just updating laws, so there's a bunch of different laws and a couple of counties in each one, so this is gonna streamline it so that it's all gonna be one statewide law. They're removing the cap on it, so instead of having a $3,000 cap, which is quite minimal actually to your tax bill, it's going to increase to just that 10% of it. So that's really all we're doing. The old law is gonna sunset next year, December 9th. So it has to be done before that, otherwise we will lose firefighter exemption.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that cares to speak to this issue? Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
As a longtime volunteer firefighter in Oneida County, this is a long time coming and long overdue, so this is absolutely something that needs to be done.
Anyone else? Truly expected greater comment. Any comments from the board? All right, with that, I'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to accept. A motion from Bernard, a second from Joe. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. I'm actually gonna switch the order of the presentations. You don't wanna, I don't believe this is gonna take very much, and I think the Carrier Park conversation could extend much longer than the Black History Month presentation. I'm gonna turn the agenda over to Reverend Alex, who carefully crafted the resolution before us. I'm gonna ask Bernard to read it. Thank you. Thank you.
Like my chair, sort of, and to my fellow colleagues, and to all of you that are here this evening, thank you. Prior to my reading this, I just said we can see honor, particularly my parents, came here, landed in 15th Ward, but their view didn't stay there. If they looked forward and their view forward, it's landed me in the seat. And for that, I'm grateful. Council resolution of recognizing Black History Month 2024. Whereas Black History Month is celebrated every February as a tribute to the achievements of African Americans who have shared American history from the documented date of 1619 to the very election of the first Black president and vice president of the United States in 2008 and 2020 respectively, and beyond. And whereas we honor Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, for first establishing Negro History Week, a week that was chosen in February of 1926 to celebrate Black history as it acknowledged the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln on February 12th and Frederick Douglass on February 20th, both of whom were recognized as champions of freedom and equality of all men. And whereas in the late 1960s, America experienced the civil rights movement and prominent civil rights activists who supported the evolution of the week into an entire month. And whereas Black History Month is now celebrated in the United States for an entire month since 1976 during the administration of President Gerald Ford, and is promoted yearly by a theme, which for 2024 is African Americans and the Arts. And whereas despite the African slave trade that created an institution of slavery in this nation, African Americans have nonetheless continued to persevere and move forward in society, fighting for their freedom and equality and for the freedom of all Americans. And whereas African Americans have played a pivotal role in the still developing history and shaping of America, and yes, here in the town of DeWitt, New York. In 2023 election of town board member, Bishop Dr. H. Bernard Alice, as the first African-American town board member since the inception of the town of DeWitt. And whereas African-Americans have been pivotal in the creation of a massive number of inventions and recognized for achievements in education, social services, public safety, health, and all branches of the armed forces of the United States, business, fine arts, entertainment, science, politics, law, engineering, technology, political offices of local, state, and national, and international government. Whereas African Americans have continually enriched and contributed to our society through their longstanding commitment to resilience, justice, equality, civil rights, and economic growth, and social equality for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of DeWitt recognizes the month of February as Black History Month and will continue to affirm the opportunity for all residents within the town of DeWitt of African American descent and or heritage to enjoy a full and vibrant life filled with liberty while in the daily pursuit of happiness. And be it further resolved that the town of DeWitt will continue to be a place where all people can be assured that their heritage and or cultural identity will be respected and celebrated. The town of DeWitt will affirm that we are better together. And be it resolved that this resolution will be distributed and displayed at town hall, on the town website, newsletter, and otherwise publicized during the month of February 2024.
That I'll entertain a motion. From Reverend, a second, from Jack. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, with that, I'm gonna move to the next presentation on Carrier Park. But for those of you that we're more fun than Monday night. They don't have to leave. Yeah. You're more than welcome to stay and witness the further fun, Patrick. So.
How you doing?
Nice job. Thank you. You don't.
Good night.
Yes.
And I feel I would. Vicky.
Yes.
Since the 5 minutes you said it was gonna take.
Soon I stood up. The notes. Do discussions. Further.
We'll sit down. I might never start.
Something we should just say.
We should just, yes.
Now it's like a little sit down.
What's that? I know.
I really thought that the rule.
Just an FYI, that fitness forum, track and racket building.
Yeah.
I raised the money and did that in 1980. That was me. They talked about the design. It was good at the time.
The red light at all these,
Yeah,
that track and rackets property.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me started. But yeah, that's about it. I'll say this, his dad was the greatest guy, man. That's as far as I'll go.
Yeah, I thought there'd be more of the firemen
Okay, well, anyway, thanks for having us here. He had asked us to just do a real quick summary of where we've been and where it's headed at the park, to kind of give you an update of what's going on. So we'll do that. I don't know if you all know, but we got the contract and started work in March of 2022, which really was about 5 months behind the 8 ball to get the season off. We had discussed that as we did it, but in any event, we generated about $104,000 of revenue during that time period, with a profit of $29,000, in which we submitted checks to DeWitt of $19,000. We moved into 2023, which was really our first full year. And we had some challenges, but we were able to improve the profit to $41,000, of which DeWitt would have received $26,800. But at a meeting, I made a statement to add that if we didn't get to at least $35,000, I'd make sure that they got that. So I carried through with my comment, and you got $35,000 instead. But 2024 is really looking good. We anticipated revenue to go from 148,000 to 260,000, with a profit of approximately 115,000, which would put basically $75,000 to the town of DeWitt. And I listed some of the things that happened that make us feel that we're going to get there. First and foremost is the number of teams. We already have more teams at 152 than we had all of last year. And that's the benefit of having the I'll call it the December and January and February to sign the teams up that are coming for the following year. So these people are already committed teams. They've already made the deposits, signed up. So we're very comfortable. Those numbers will greatly exceed what we did last year. Same thing with the leagues. The leagues have increased significantly. People are already signed up for them. We already are significantly above last year. I won't put the numbers there here. But that's another reason. And again, I didn't want to bring full financial statements and projections, but if anybody does want them, we have them and I can forward them to anybody. But I thought this would be better to just summarize and take it with you. The hotel revenue, we have a relationship with the hotels where we get our program gets $15 per night for anybody that stays there. And the way the programs work as of this year is the visiting teams are required to stay in certain hotels. Last year at this time, we had 0 people registered in hotels. As of today, as of Friday, we had 224 registered in 4 different hotels in Cary Circle. So we expect that to be hugely more significant, as most of the people haven't registered yet. Those are people who wanted to guarantee they were close enough in the right spot. And we do require now that if you're coming from a certain distance, again, I'm not sure the distance is,
That's 50 miles.
50 miles, then you have to stay in one of the hotels that we've put on the website. So that's good. Along with that, the admissions will obviously go up with the more significant number of teams, more people, that will go up. Sponsorships, last year we only sold $1,750 sponsorships. We've already sold a little over 8,000. This year, not even close to where we're gonna be, so we'll blow that out of the water as well. And of course, the concessions. So overall, we expect this to be a very significant year compared, more than double what we did last year by a lot. And probably 2.5 times, which is significant. I know the proposal for the new fields we're very excited about. And we put down some of the things that we feel will make a significant difference if that actually truly happens and it's available in 2025. That will give us, besides the big field, it gives us the ability to have 4 smaller fields so that we can create a lot of our tournaments, depending on when they are, they sell out. So you're limited by not only the age groups, because we can only do boys 12 and under, and then the softball. So we're limited by what we can do because of the number of the size of our fields and the number of fields. So this will greatly open that up. It would allow us to do additional sports with the lacrosse and the soccer, which we obviously can't do now under the environment we have there. More than likely, the fees would go up because of the structure in place at that point in time. So we think that there's a lot of advantages to doing it. I think it's pretty close to happening. I'm not sure what that process is. But what we did is we did some projections based on the fact of what we know now versus when we first started, what our competition is now, and with the additional field, again, keep in mind that's a big field that allows us to have 4 of the smaller ones at any given time, and or a full lacrosse or a full soccer or smaller one, which we can't now. They all fit in the outfield of the baseball field. And if you need more explanation on that, Dickie obviously can do that. But we think the revenue conservatively could be $576,000 with a projection of about $260,000 profit, of which just under $170,000 based on the current contract. And that's assuming it's ready for 2025. The teams would most of the money is coming from the tournament participation. The number of teams, which includes some soccer and lacrosse, goes up significantly, and then the hotel rooms would go up as well. So, I mean, I think that it's, again, I don't know all the details as to where you are right now, but those are the types of numbers I believe what has to be done. Some of the things that some challenges we've had, other than, I think the biggest thing is, the size of the field and the number of fields, because you can't really control it, is that since we got the contract, Cortland now has 4 large turf fields of which they can put multiple small fields and multiple sports. And that's a significant issue. It's a beautiful facility. They've done a good job with it. It's huge. Also, during the same period of time since then, Binghamton has put in 4 turf fields. Oswego has added 6. They turfed 6 of their fields in the infield. Duluth has improved theirs. They have new management done that. And as you know, Hopkins Road is now taking one of their fields and making a large, actually almost identical to what is proposed at DeWitt. So that hasn't affected us yet. That's a future competitive. The one advantage there, to be totally transparent, is we lease Hopkins Road for tournaments, and we have the ability to it doesn't take county approval or town approval for us to do tournaments or anything else. Our job is to keep it the park full. So we'll have the ability when they do that, which really isn't showing the projections, to let DeWitt us or you rent the field so we can have a much larger tournament, more significant tournament. And if you rent those fields, you're paying so much per hour, but all the profit and revenue comes to the DeWitt side. That's really not taken into consideration in these projections at all. But that's really significant. And when you travel to tournaments now, a lot of times the tournaments will be at multiple locations to do that. And with those 2 brand new fields and us running for the town of DeWitt, let's say, but the tournament's gonna run, would be significant. And huge advantage. And it would take, I mean, even the hotel numbers and all that stuff would change significantly, because it gives you twice as many fields. And not that would happen on every date, but there are dates where that would fill that up. And people would travel for that because of the quality of the fields. And they know every field they're on is gonna be the same quality. A lot of times you'll travel to a place and the kids will be, there's this one beautiful field, but the kids are playing all over the city or wherever they are, and they don't make it to that field. So in this particular case, so that could be an advantage. Beyond that, we've been doing things where we try to raise money or do collections for different, charities and different groups. And we'll continue to do that. Working with Challenger Baseball has been a good experience. We're hoping to get some big tournament with them, but they're very easy to work with, and we give them all the time that they need. You don't interrupt in any of their programs or activities. So our goal is just to make sure they get a good experience and come back. And I will say that roughly 90% of the teams that played last year have already committed to sign up for next year. So something's going right there. Some might be a big 7-8 group, but they're coming back. That's it for me, Dickie. I don't know if you want to.
I haven't met everybody here, but I'm Dickie Woodridge.
Oh, yeah, I can say the rest.
I also run literally the largest baseball program, a softball program. Definitely in the upstate New York and central New York. And so all my programs, I have 26 teams and my programs fuel pretty much everything that we do. And not to brag, but we are the best around. So what happens is over the last couple of years, how this has been built up. You know, when we go to tournaments, they always want to know where we're playing. And since we started Salt City Sports, we have a lot of new teams. That's why it's up to 155 teams already. A lot of teams want to come in. There's not a lot of great baseball and softball around here. As far as teams and competition, as soon as you start getting the better teams, the better players coming, then everybody wants to come. And that's what we talked about this years ago, and that's what's happening now. That's why we have so many teams.
It's starting to happen. And the one thing is actually the lack of field and space. As a side note, my name is Jim Smith. I did forget to say that. We just sold Sports Center 41 that we had. And I also own Ultimate Gold in Marcellus. So we do a lot with, we moved our location, 41, we still have it. And we do a lot of stuff with lacrosse and soccer. So this is another thing where there's a natural, just like Dickey's baseball and softball is a natural for what we're doing now. It'll be a natural for lacrosse and soccer if we get this field and it can happen. Makes it much easier to do when you've got a good organization that, feeds it and starts the process.
I got some questions.
Okay, I bet you do.
Ultimate goal, you said Marcellus, what's the family of the cross players for Syracuse? Yeah.
Yeah, they.
No, not the Pauls.
Yeah, trying to thank you, bought it from them. I bought it 2.5 years ago with a guy named Len Montreal. And we bought it from the lacrosse kids, and gosh, I'm trying to find that. There was 2 of them.
Yeah.
And they're actually their father-in-law of one of them was actually the owner. They weren't the owners. Oh, I can't think.
Under supporting group, you got ESM, high school softball and little league. Are we charging them? We charge them?
Yes, what we do there is we help, for example, like the school and stuff, we'll do events where there was one day where they brought in, when you had a tournament event, people brought all kinds of things to put into the elementary school, for example, paper, pens,
Dylan Donahue.
Donahue, that's what it was.
Dylan Donahue.
Yes. Dylan actually still has a program, a small program, and he still participates there.
You know who Luke Stout is, the goalie?
No.
He works with them. He's my grandson.
There you go.
But yeah, 17, we charge them significantly less. We actually charge everybody else.
You got St. Matt's Food Pantry. Anything I can help you with that? What are they doing?
Again, that's a collection thing. Carmela, the girl who works for us, has worked with them, and what she'll do is she'll have a program where we have at a certain event, it's their event, and there's a collection, and that particular place, I think, was for food, different types of food, and they bring that in. So she tries to add different kind of people that contact her or somebody that we know, if they're trying to, get some food, or for the schools, get some supplies, or maybe it's this Little League baseball teams need equipment. So at each one of the events, we'll try to add different.
Any contact with that food pantry? Let me know. My wife volunteers here.
We're also gonna have a large JDRF tournament there too. When the 90-foot diamonds get there. Right now, I run one, or we run Rome, New York, and just Ludus Field. And we'll be bringing in at least 40 to 50 teams for that. That's already an established event.
And we'll move it from there.
We're just gonna move the Carrier Park.
Okay, my last question is about Hopkins Road. Are you waiting on the county to tell you what they're gonna do?
No, they're doing it. It's been approved.
Have they done construction up to Hopkins?
No, their plan is to start in August.
What's the average radius of the teams that you're bringing in? The distance?
I would say the average radius, it's gonna be dominated by local teams still for the most part. But right now for out of town teams, last year, we were just over 25%. Really want to get that to 35%.
The distance, they come from Buffalo, Albany.
That's really out to, I consider that 50
Pennsylvania.
miles. I consider 50 miles that they can drive.
And do we, I don't know this rule, but I assume there's a market rate. We're charging at least market rate for the tournaments? If
We
not,
didn't last year. We got the market rate for most of this year. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And keep in mind too, a lot of the larger costs of older kids, it's mostly boys. And we can't do them yet because the fields aren't big enough.
Okay.
So the reason we don't have the boys is because once they hit 12 years old,
90-foot diamond.
They're too big for the fields. And they're the ones that pay, our company, when we travel, we paid, I think, $157,000 last year in entry fees to tournaments across the country. So we know what people pay, and we want to get to that, but most of that, I mean, when we look at our stuff, there's a one rate with younger kids, and it's a much different rate as you get older. So we're losing out on that, and we can't do that. That's why we run one of the programs at Rome, because they have a large fields, so we end up having to do that there. And we just rent that space. We rent them for that event. We don't rent it for a year round.
Women's softball's growing though.
You know, big time, yeah, big time, yes.
Is the cost flash prices down?
It elevating some, it's getting there.
Yeah, definitely baseball, there's a lot more money.
It's amazing. I don't want to say this the wrong way, but there seems to be a difference in what people are willing to pay for the boys to play than the girls, otherwise the girls are
I have
catching.
two girls that.
The girls are
play
catching up.
softball.
Those are
And the tournaments are way.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's growing faster for us than the baseball.
And that's around here. My daughter plays on a travel team out of Atlanta, so she just played in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. She's only 15. So we go all over the country and it's huge.
It's a good thing.
That's what
Because he couldn't.
I'm pointing to what I believe is an optimistic market, right? That women's softball is.
Oh, I think it's a great market. No, it's a great market. It's growing. I mean, it's growing with all of the girls' sports.
Tournaments,
are actually going
softball
like
is first to sell out, actually.
Yeah, no question.
First two tournaments.
I couldn't agree more. They just don't want to pay as much, but they certainly want to participate. That's for sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
There's an organization in the city, YEOP. And it is really committing to inner city baseball, to reinvigorate and engage young men and young women in inner city baseball again. Most of the fields are not and have not, as you know, been maintained, been well made. Not only that, but a lot of these young people, some of them have never been outside of Syracuse, even nor to stay in a hotel. They are really picking up momentum. And if they were interested in having a game, having a tournament, and even for a weekend, for the kids to stay at a hotel, just to see something different, who could I direct them to? That's my question. I could ask this offline, but just that team or YEOP, and I can get you all of their contact information.
Start with me. I mean, my contact is right on the back of the sheet there. Start with me. We can see if we can work something.
We've kind of already done that also. Believe it or not, in our indoor places, we also run a place in Pine Grove, South Pine Grove. And we've usually worked with RBI though. I don't know if you're an RBI, but we've had RBI teams just come in there and we just get a ton of play out.
Okay. And the sponsorships that I look at, sponsorship, you can provide that information as well. How much
I
is
can
the sponsorship?
respond. Any information you want, we can give you.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want, I can get your contact.
What's that organization you said? Because I've never heard. It used to be RBI. They didn't change their name, right?
Yeah,
YEOP is a youth education. It started as youth educational opportunity program, but they're now more specific in athletics, baseball and basketball.
So you're interested in them participating?
Yes, as an incentive or a goal reach, that they stay committed, then they have a tournament or something out there and stay for the weekend. Just give them another goal.
And what age group is it mostly?
They start.
I only say that because where do they play?
They're young, so they start young. 10, right now they're going maybe up to, as you said, 12, 13.
Usually 12.
Yeah.
That's funny too. That's kind of the age where wherever kids are playing, whatever sport they play, that's kind of when they start to make the decision of playing on sports, 1, 2 or 3, where they start carving off. But yeah, I'd be happy to work with Weber and see if we can put something together for sure.
Okay, I'll get in touch with you.
I got to do something that he claims he does all the work.
There's a couple of things I've asked them to look into, and all this is gonna take time. Hopefully, while we engage in the construction, these things can come to fruition, but again, the Challenger community with advocates in general, this is a fully inclusive park and one of the few that exists. There are other facilities that are inclusive, but they have a field or two. And so, we're looking to host, challenge tournaments in the future, and then the Wounded Warrior veterans, we've reached to the Veterans Administration, there's actually grants in those areas that can help set up a foundation.
Yeah, we're really, willing to do any of that kind of stuff. And it only helps the whole organization, so.
We've got 26 hotels. We want to reach out to those hotels. We've done it in the past to increase the number of handicap accessible.
Right.
If this park is gonna reach its potential, like I hope it will, then those types of events such as the Special Olympics and whatever, potentially something.
Yeah, we gotta be reaching out to the ones they've already contacted with, they've contracted with Ford, so, right?
Well, we've contracted with more. Those four are the ones that are, actually, it's, I got that. It's the Embassy Suites, Doubletree, Hilton, and Hampton, the four that, and Embassy Suites has probably got half of them. People, they have waiver lists on the site, and they have their choices to which one they want to sign up, and those are the four right now that,
And the one thing I meant to ask this of you the other day and stuff, but, where are we with concessions for 2020?
we're gonna, that's a tough one.
Okay, because I have some potential to work with, first from a stamping standpoint, the culinary program at ESM. ESM has a culinary program where they train people to.
Well, we have somebody that's gonna do it now that we think is very good. She she came in last year and kind of saved us when I got off. And so we've contracted it, and they're looking for a few changes, like they need a deep fryer, a few things that they have. It's funny, people, when they come to things, there's only certain things that they'll buy and eat. And I happen to eat healthy, so it's not the same kind of stuff that I eat that they want. Although I do, yesterday I
Not in the baseball game.
But the point is, so there's a couple of changes that we're suggesting, like the big pizza oven and stuff, they don't use it at all. It's will just take a space. And they're gonna open up another window area, because the biggest problem is that actually, we got a lot of comments back on purpose for the food service at the end of the year. And everybody liked the food, everybody liked it. The problem was when the games end, the players rush and their family rush to eat before the next game starts and the next team goes in while they're playing. So you keep getting this wicked backlog. So we're trying to set it up where they can get some stuff, and if they don't want to make it ahead of time, because it's not the same. So another deep fryer, that type of thing, a few other changes, an extra person working so that they can be quicker. You can't fix all that, but you can fix some of it.
Sit down with our architects as well, because when the pavilion is complete, and that's not gonna happen in 2024, there'll be another kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Location.
Yeah, we should do, I mean, because the only thing that really slowed them up last year was that time. And mostly that's, when the game's going on, you get one or two or three people that go up, and it's not a big deal. But boy, when you've got four teams coming off, and they're all gonna get something, whether even if it's just a drink, some are getting food, and some of the stuff takes longer than others, it's a bad rush. So that's what we're trying to fix. And the design.
If your concessionaire is of Venom, there's a possibility to contract with King. Carrier has 700 employees.
Yeah, I figured it out.
They closed their kitchens. They closed them in COVID, and they haven't reopened them yet. So they approached us and said, hey, what are you gonna do in that concession stand? We can take orders in the morning and send them over. Can you deliver them at noon, 1 o'clock?
You can, if you give me that contact, we'll talk to them, because the biggest thing for what we do now is usually Friday night, Saturday and Sunday. And it's that, the rest of the time for the leagues and stuff, there's not a whole lot there. And there's nothing in the day, Monday to Friday, basically.
Right.
So I'm sure they typically paint The
challenger groups haven't been enough to support.
No, I don't mean it's empty. What I'm saying is it's just a different. They staff it, but it's like one person type staff, so they could make that work, whereas on a Saturday or Sunday, they would never be able to.
That's what I was thinking, they could make it work in the daytime.
Yeah.
On the prices you got down, Town of DeWitt residents, free. Will you make sure you put a sign up there? Cause last year we had a couple of people complaining they got charged $5. When they left, then came back for the next game, they got charged again.
We don't have a post about,
You know what?
because then everyone's at top, we went right there.
No, you don't. Do you ask them if you're a Town of Renton?
So we generally, how we generally figure it out is because we know who the Town of DeWitt teams are.
Yeah.
These Syracuse kids, so like the high school games, we wouldn't charge them. So it's just a few, so.
There are no travel places you go where they don't charge admission. None.
This is just a
And
unique
we're way-
situation because we want all the residents. to
And
still
we
use
are
the
way
centers.
cheaper in the parking than anybody else. That's one of the things we projected day one differently. These people are, when I used to take my son, and that was years ago. It was already $25 a weekend just to get in, or it's $10 a day. We don't charge anything near that. And there was it didn't matter if you lived across the street, you still pay it. It's amazing what they've done now. It's sort of like the hotels. You have to stay in a certain place or you can't play.
You're gonna get 2% more at hotels now. You know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
don't know if it's one of the hotels, we're gonna talk about that later on the agenda, that somebody's getting free water. And I'm available by email or phone anytime. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, and Jack can tell you, I get right back.
Yep, he does.
I do it. I can't speak for the guy on my left, but I definitely
Yeah,
get
he
right
does
back. And I'd be happy to, any suggestions or help, be great. Just, the things. South City responded to RFP, but they got this award through a competitive process. And prior to them, we had 3 separate vendors that we had all sorts of performance issues with as well. So although the revenues have been slow and evolving, they are improving and the performance has been exceptional, especially relative to the 3 prior vendors.
Yes,
So thank you.
We know they are.
But it is a challenge. It's a different kind of business, but I think now it's starting to meld into what it should be, I think. And I think that, well, you can tell, look at what just around us with Cortland, the DeWitt, Oswego. I mean, they've all put these turf fields in. I don't know how they're running them or how successful they are. But just since we started talking to this has all happened. Which was just a little over a couple of years ago. I actually feel sorry for the children today, but the recreational sports industry is strong. Right, every yard you push, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry expected to get, it's in its infancy stages right now. And I feel like I'm so blessed because we were the type, we didn't have cell phones. We did our chores in the morning, went to the playground. Wait till you get my age. We played and played and played without parental supervision and without. Not anymore, man. Yeah, it's just, it's crazy. This is what's replaced playgrounds, right? I had several playgrounds throughout town of DeWitt and the basketball courts are empty. Not to mention every kid that come there is gonna be the next, Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth. Yeah. And the parents mind, but yeah, I do think, it's a generational thing, but by the time the next generation comes, the recreational sports industry is gonna be huge. But I think, to be quite frank, I think it's a point to replace the school teams. Yeah, it's on its way. It's gonna definitely replace school teams. I have a grandson playing hockey right now, whose goal didn't show up for their last high school game because he had a tournament game. But there are places where it's happening now, and I believe you could go far enough in the future that there won't be high school teams, there'll be all. Which I think is terrible, but
Yeah, it's sad.
I think that's what's gonna happen.
That's sad. Any other questions, comments from the board? I appreciate you coming.
Well, thanks. It was a pleasure listening. Before, yours was great. Before that, not so good. Well,
We did, apparently there was a breakdown between the code and the planning board.
It's funny, it's, I feel like it's pain because we, when we owned it, we wanted to make changes from time to time. It's a challenge. Challenge.
We'll get it. This is our first, and that's not our last mistake.
Yeah.
No, our first regarding.
I made a couple of lights as well.
The first.
Well, thank you.
Makes use.
Thank you very much. For letting us,
Okay. All right. I'm gonna jump right into the
On board minutes of January 22nd.
Yes.
Anybody had a chance to?
Anyone had a chance to write it this week? I'll entertain a motion.
From Carrie, a second from Jack. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay, I don't know the details yet, but the rec director had a medical emergency today. Spent some time in the emergency room, hospital, and so I'm gonna check in tomorrow and hope it's all right. But I do know these were all circulated as part of the packet. I feel it's rather simple, and I'd like to go forward with these tonight anyways, unless you have an objection to that. But as far as the pricing sets and the schedules go in the packet, these are not written in stone. So if there are issues with them, and we do approve them here tonight, and you want to change the prices in the future, we can do that. So what's the?
A question. Do these exist now? These policies, are these all new? Okay. They're all been.
These are updated.
Okay.
There have been, the former rec directors always brought the prices and the fee schedules to us. That broke down in the last cycle. And so this is a return to practice that was done for years. So, again, pricing schedules are approved. Any waiver from the pricing schedule comes to the board from the rec director. And so that's here tonight as well. So we have the rental fees, policies and fees, and then we have the day camp. And we have a waiver, and I can go through each one of those. If you're willing to move forward with this in Patty's absence. Anybody have an objection to that? I'll jump in then. The new rental fees, policies and fees. Everybody had a chance to look at those. There is a different price schedule for times, rooms, and pavilions. It was fairly detailed, but it was consistent. There was a residential fee, a non-resident fee for those items that are available as non-residents. As you know, the community room has been reserved strictly just because the demand is there for the top residents.
Do you know if this was an increase from what they've been charging?
Yes. The answer is yes. It's minor, but increase.
Very thorough. I'm very glad to see it.
So under community sign rentals, we have Challenger, DeWitt Library, Jamesville, DeWitt. We don't have ESM. We don't have East Syracuse Library.
You don't have the sign.
Community sign rentals. Well, we approved at our last meeting that the East Syracuse Library would not be charged their sign.
Right, that's a waiver. That's not a price. He's got the cost schedule there, like, we're gonna have a separate vote on another waiver as well.
Yeah, but I see what Jack's saying. There are.
It's like ESM school.
Yeah, there are organizations listed that aren't charged.
They're bumming out East Syracuse
But
on
they're
it.
not all the ones that. we
Okay,
approved.
so we'll make that amendment to this package. Jack, and you can do that, the Patty tomorrow, but all the ones that we approved in our last meeting need to be added to this list if they're not there.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, didn't realize that they weren't added. My guess is this was printed before. Probably. She is aware.
Yeah, she agreed with
Yeah. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the new facility rentals policies and fees. Motion from Jack, second from Carrie. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion's carried. Okay, we have a request for a community room waiver. It's Senator Mannion for a senior event, and I just want to go on record that we always allow certain waivers, but what we have not allowed is political events. But we don't, you know, if this was a political fundraiser, he'd have to pay for the rent. But because this is a senior event and he's doing it in the line of his obligation as a state senator, we have no issue with offering the waiver. Is there?
So he gets it for free. My recommend, I mean, I absolutely think we should use it for a veterans fair, but my recommendation, rather than coming for to Patty was here, would be to co-host it rather than ask for I'd love it to be a Town of DeWitt / Senator Mannion Veterans Fair.
I like that.
And then it's our event and there's no need for a waiver.
Perfect. What a great
It looks
resolution.
better, looks better than having,
Yeah.
looks better our involvement
Good.
and just him.
Great.
John.
Yeah, the board agrees.
Says he agreed to-
We can have, I mean, it's not until the summer. Patty can
Sarah, you want,
can throw it back.
you want to okay this one?
I was gonna say, we can let Sarah tell us.
The higher of that one.
Max will tell. That's his liaison.
Yeah, my job is liaison.
Okay, no reason for a vote. I like it. All right, summer camp dates and fee schedule, same as the rental policies. Any further comments?
Could we request the rec department to give us another summer camp update like they did last year? Okay.
Yeah, I was, so maybe given her health issues, sooner rather than later, if she could come back and.
Yeah, summer camp opening start being reserved in March.
And one of my messages has been that we want online registration. It's all on board. We've had resistance on that issue. And finally, we have a rec director that sees the world in a similar perspective as the rest of us in terms of parents and busyness and being able to sign up online. So this will be an offering that we have, and it won't include in old way of doing business. It'll just open up the door for the future as well. Okay. So did you want to have her come back in 2 weeks and give an update on the fees as well, or?
I think so.
So you want to defer these?
Oh, no, we can do the fees now.
Okay,
The fees aren't
that's-
tied to summer camp.
Okay.
May I ask a question for this? Scholarship opportunities. Would it require someone or some organization to underwrite a certain amount for scholarships?
We have scholarships in the program, and so she can come back and update that. But if you want to increase that offering, there are other organizations. We'll always accept other organizations that increase the scholarships. Well, we have a scholarship program that Greek Church helps underwrite. We do things at the Clem Center, and we'd love to see that expand. So if there's,
do you know offhand?
I don't know the
How many
fees.
scholarships are offered?
I don't.
Okay.
Each, that'll be part of the presentation.
Yeah.
Never tell us that.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe 50 last year out of 200, but that's something.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the exact, but we wholeheartedly support that, and that there are other groups that can increase that number. One of the things that I'd like to work towards, and I believe Patty's on the same, is that no child is denied. Okay, all right, so I'll entertain a motion for the summer camp fees dates from Carrie, a second from Sarah. I'll call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Okay, we have a water adjustment. This is Rex. First over.
So we had a resident from number 9 Wexford after our last billing, who figured out that she had a leaky toilet, had that repaired. She met the qualifications. It was 4 times her normal bill. So the adjusted bill will go from $670.85 to $272.70. And we will also, because we didn't have a meeting till I got this to you, we'll with your approval, we'll forgive the late fee of $67.09 also. Any questions from the board?
No, good information, Rock. Pretty easy to understand, and I'll make a motion to.
Well, I'll second. Gary, a second from Joe. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Just to Matt. Should we do these separately?
Separate water adjustments?
No, waiving the water adjustment versus waiving the late fee.
I would always err on doing them separately.
It's just because it's 2 different processes.
Question, it can't hurt you to do it separately.
Thinking auditor in the back of my head.
Oh, it's
Why could you guys doing that decision?
it's more clear in the minutes that way.
Yeah, good.
So I'll entertain a motion. Max, a second. Carrie, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. All right, there's a couple other things that Brock talked to me about this morning, and again, this is up to the board. We have, I think we brought it before the hydrant and valves flow testing proposal, and we did get the cost. We met with the contractor, and in his first proposal, there was a piece of equipment that Brock told me beforehand that he wanted to purchase. In his first proposal, that was about $100,000. We told him we purchased it and let him use it, adjust your prices. The piece of equipment now is at 80,000, so immediately we save 20,000 on the cost of the equipment. Plus, there's another 80,000 in savings because he came down about $20 per hydrant, $20 per valve. So based on the 4,000 items that we have, $21 savings is in excess of $80,000. So, I think, Brock, did you provide the?
I sent everybody an email this afternoon. I don't know, did everybody get that? Sorry for the late notice. He sent this to me like at 7 last night.
Yeah.
Getting all his numbers together. So, I mean, basically, it will be approximately a $20,000 savings. We will spend approximately 80-some thousand on equipment, but the good thing about that is we will keep that equipment for our employees to use in the future. So it's kind of a win-win for us, I think.
The piece of equipment is a valve opening piece of equipment. Right now, we do it manually. It's an issue.
When you have 3,000 valves, it's good to have a piece of equipment that'll do the turn for you.
What's the life cycle of that expected to be with our number of valves?
You know, it's a good question. I don't have to ask him, honestly, but I gotta believe if we're the only ones using it, we maintain it. I think we'll get good service.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so sorry for the late notice. I try not to do this so late, but we kind of like to get on board with him and the goal is to go through the whole town in 1 year. And then after that, we would take over with our own forces, basically divide the town up into 4 sections, like our brush pickup, our trash pickup. And we would try to visit each section every 4 years. So the valves would be exercised. And every year, though, we would flush the whole town for hydrants for flushing, just for quality of water purposes.
And as you know, we've already banned $2 million towards the water department for the tanks. These costs would be eligible under the ban as well.
Yeah, Carrie clarified that with our ban company.
Right.
So this is a total of around 400,000 estimated.
Plus the equipment purchase.
Plus the
Yeah,
equipment.
which is all that capital costs is when Doug, before I got involved, Doug had put capital improvements and he put equipment actually in the van. So we can
Okay.
purchase the equipment.
So it'll all be eligible under the ban and then roll into a longer term bond.
Right.
Then the next program will be the meters, of which we believe the revenue will come back to us.
Pay for it.
Yeah, because I wanna say 20% or higher by the meters are coming in
So
the lowest. So it's they're not meeting, they're not coming.
So Robin has reached out to some other towns that have done meter upgrades in cities like Ithaca.
Yeah.
So we'll get, hopefully within maybe a board meeting or two, we'll have Greg Nelson and maybe Doug here and we can address the board what our results are and before we go out to bid. So give you guys some kind of idea what we're hoping to gain through all this.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so if the board's amenable, I would entertain a motion to authorize the flow testing contract. And the motion from Sarah and a second from Jack. I'll do the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same, motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, Invictus Soccer, as you know, Matt, they've rented Maxwell the last couple of years.
Yeah, we did Rush Soccer last year, and this is for Invictus Soccer. This is actually one out of two. If they do another one for a summer camp, they would want to run at Maxwell Park. That's not affiliated. These are their leagues, or the travel team. In any event, and from April 29th through October 7th, they'll be using Maxwell Park on certain days. Town collects $8,800 in total. That breaks down to $110 per day. And if it rains and they can't play, then they receive $110 back.
$110 per time that they can't play.
On the day the field is unusable, we notice them and then they don't pay for that.
It's not like if it's a rain and they like call it for weather, it's
unusable.
if Rocco or his people determine that.
Not
It's
safe.
unusable, yes.
Yeah,
Who calls it them or Rocco or one of Rocco?
Ryan and Garrett.
We do. They can't say no and then we want the money back. We tell them.
Any other questions, comments?
Are there any concerns? Didn't we have last year some kids or something that were kind of, I don't want to say vandalizing the park, but leaving stuff around? Is that still?
Unaware of anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah, they were in the back of where the
Yeah.
restroom is, and where the field is. We're talking about playing on a football field there, right? That's where they're playing.
Yes.
Way in the back.
Multi-purpose field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
two softball fields, then there's the football field /
Multi-purpose field, it's called, yes.
Yeah, that's just my concern is if they come and there's needles or something or glass shards in the vicinity, if your team would clean that, address that right before they came over. Okay.
Brandon's there every day looking over, especially in the summertime.
Okay.
Yes, that would be on us to. Once they're coming and leaving stuff there, that's on them to remove.
If they're 12 years old.
But I don't think they're using needles at 12.
So actually, speaking of Maxwell Park, if you're familiar with it, where you drive into the back where the restroom is in the maintenance building. So we actually, you pull in through the main gate kind of, and there's a parking lot to the right. So we actually gated that about a month ago. Highway built a set of gates that are we can open and close, but the problem was everybody's going in the back and the dumpster is continually full back there from people just going back there dumping. So we got a little bit of pushback. I don't know if you guys have heard anything, but we didn't block it off. People can still park there and walk in the back, but we're just stop them from driving back there. There's no reason to drive back there. You know what I mean? You could still walk back there with your dog.
Is the intention to leave it open during
The
the
summer, we
summer?
will probably open it back up and just try to monitor it. I mean, you're gonna get some illegal dumping with a dumpster, but I mean,
Are there cameras back there?
no cameras there. It's maybe in the future. There's a lot of upgrades we want to do over there, but it's a long-term goal. We got to come up with a plan for that park. I talked to Patty about that too.
Yeah, they used to do that to me at church. We just put up a sign said, we have cameras, we got cameras. Stop.
Might not be a big thing, but it's.
I mean, that's.
We actually could.
You're telling a lie about that, Reverend?
Yeah.
Reverend Bishop, you're telling a lie?
Maxwell Park is, the whole park has had several other parcels next to it. And current configuration just doesn't make sense and it's old and one softball diamond hits into the other.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just a lot of reasons to redo the park. It's an expense that we just.
I threw out the first pitch then,
Jeez.
1946, Jack. After the war, was the East Syracuse Softball League. I was president of the East Syracuse Softball League, so I fixed the schedules of my team in the first game. And I was pitching, so I threw out the first pitch.
Was that with two natural shoulders?
Yeah. And the third guy up named Brad Hilligus, who owns a bar in East Syracuse, that went into the other field, is then Sanders on the field. 800 feet, home run, gone.
So it took you 3 pitches to get. To get tired, huh? All right, so I entertain a motion to allow execution of the Invictus Soccer Agreement. From Jack, a second from Carrie. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, motion's carried. Okay, the municipal comprehensive agreement for the Tompkins Health.
We did something very similar to this in either October or November last year, where Tompkins County Health Insurance Consortium, all the time, they make certain amendments to the contract, most of the time pretty innocuous, either they add someone or drop someone or something. And last year, I could have sworn that we did a resolution that would enable us to not have to come and do this again. That would just approve all future amendments. But Andy reached out to me, Andy Miller, and asked that we do this again for 2024. Just to approve this amendment and future amendments to this agreement, so that we don't have to have a board resolution every time that they add someone new or drop someone off or change small rules.
Can you imagine a scenario where if it is innocuous and they're just changing names, that it would be detrimental to the town?
Everybody's under the same rules, so if it's detrimental to us, it would be detrimental to every other member. And anything bigger like that, they would notice us, if it was anything substantial.
I believe it's a requirement from the New York State Insurance Committee, so, you know, they're bound by those rules, so this is.
I'll just have to send them this signature page right here, that's it.
So, yeah, so if they ever got audited by Steve Grant.
Angela has a.
They would have all the signed, documents.
Thanks, Carrie.
I don't remember if I drafted it.
Yeah.
I think I did.
It's in the back.
I think I did. I just can't-
If I have.
Board resolution, yeah, it is.
That's in.
So that would just go in the minutes, Angie.
Wow, Matt.
So, there's like 100 pages here and
On page 62 is the signature.
I got the signature page for Ed here.
Okay, what are you asking me now?
I'm looking at the board resolution.
Oh, that's on that following page.
It's in there, yes.
Page 63.
Yeah, so this resolution will go into our minutes and then we'll send this signature page to Andy Miller and then it should be set.
hey. Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Carrie. Second. Sarah, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, motion's carried. Okay. So I'll take this one, but Zach, myself and Doug Miller sat the other day. There's been a number of instances, in particular, the property at the corner of Waring and Tecumseh. There are sight lines and difficulties have been made with near accidents. In fact, there might even have been a few fender benders at that location. And so we always post no parking on Tecumseh Road for Freak Fest. There's only 6 homeowners. The rest of the road is basically non-residential green space. And it just makes sense that we would post it for the entire stretch from Kimber back to Waring. That it would be in fact, I think we're taking it to.
Is it Bradford? Is that where we? Bradford Drive?
Oh, yeah, Max, you were in that conversation too. So what we intend to do is propose and set a public hearing for this. I want to do it a little bit out and send a notice to the 6 homeowners. This is happening, gives them an opportunity to either email back us or attend the public hearing, whether they're in favor of opposition. But for the most part, we think it makes sense and it's workable for that stretch of road. So.
The only neighbor's concern is gonna be, what if they're having a party and 10 people come to visit?
Right. Most of them have the space for that. If you look at the 6 homes, they all have long driveways. A couple of them have big turnarounds and stuff. But we'll see.
I think that's the point of the extended period for the notice is to see what they think about it. I mean, I would agree that would be the issue, but I mean, I've driven down Tecumseh probably, I can't even say 5 times a week, if it wasn't every day when I was picking up my daughter, for 15 years. And I've never seen more than 1 car parked on Tecumseh. So
There's several churches in that stretch. And most of the residents are close enough that if they had it, they can use the parking lots next door. Issue with that, the big church parking lot for the stretch between Bradford and Warren. It's JD and CBA are not far away. And there's things that residents can do in that. Needed additional parking, but my aerial view and memory of the neighborhood is most of those folks have plenty. I know the residents that the Woods live in. And one of my former colleagues lives there.
They got a lot of parking.
They have a lot of,
They got a lot of parking.
They got a lot of parking.
There's plenty of room back in that one.
Yeah, right. And several of the homes have that kind of setup where you can go in, turn around, park. So I don't suspect there will be a lot of pushback towards this. I could be surprised. 6 of 6 may come back and say no. But the goal is to set the public hearing tonight and send the notice out. And we want to give time to get the notice together and get it out and have people review it. And the notice should say, here's the date of the public hearing. Here's the supervisor at the town of DeWitt. Email, let us know your feelings or your attitude towards it. Are you in support or opposed to it?
So I would suggest either the first or the second meeting of March, maybe.
This is the first meeting in February already. I would say it'll be the earliest, the second meeting. Right, we're just gonna put the notes together, yeah, right, let's get it out. No, that'll have a week of running around finding out who's gonna do it.
I'll make a motion to set a hearing for that for
March 25th.
March 25th, 6:05.
All right, I have a motion for Max and a second. Gary, call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. Okay, the license agreement on Stanton Drive.
Second attempt at this particular license agreement. This was on the last board agenda. There were some questions raised, some legitimate questions raised about water mains and fire hydrants nearby the proposed fence. Rocco can correct me if I'm wrong, but he went out there to inspect himself. He advised the homeowner that the fence should be 12 feet off of the pavement and should be a radius at the corner to prevent vision issues. I spoke with Kim a few times and she is more than in agreement. I had this as a condition on our approval. And she has it all spec'd out to do exactly what Rocco has asked her to do. And we decided for you to consider her approval. She made sure to tell me that today.
Can you just make sure that to have Leah or Sharon or whoever's dealing with it when the permit comes through for the fence? To have Rocco take a look at it for where the actual design or where the actual placement's gonna be so that it meets for that corner radius
We will inspect post fence.
and post fence.
Yes.
And not to throw more on you, but if I guess correctly, there's probably a filing issue as to where these are housed, right? We gotta be a decade or two into these. And do we have a
I've got,
repository that?
I've got ones that since 21.
I'm not gonna say anything in public.
What's that?
Not gonna say.
Don't ask Angela.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't, that's what I'm saying. This started under Dick Rob, right? I mean, this filing system
Well,
is
for a
not the
long
same
time.
one we have today, so.
My understanding is they happened a lot more frequently back in the.
I think when they built, they were
Probably
building the
did
house.
7 and 3 years.
Steinway Heights,
They were built.
Limestone Estates, those areas are the places this all started. The folks wanted a monument or a mailbox on the curb. Snowplows have a tendency to hit those things, and so it just got to the point where we didn't want to take, former boards, even before my time, did not want to take liability or responsibility for a monument in the right of way. And therefore, the homeowners were willing to sign away the liability so that if a plow hit them or something happened, it was still their responsibility to together.
Fences and mailboxes, it's pretty innocuous.
Right.
Not gonna cause major damage.
Right. Anyways.
And if it does,
For another day.
we don't pay for anything if it does.
Right, but for another day, if we don't have the agreement.
I
So,
could,
and a new homeowner comes to us after our snowplow has hit it.
So
I've been here long enough to know never say never.
Yeah.
That'll happen someday. Okay, next on the agenda.
we get a.
Oh, I thought I had a motion in a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Alright.
Opposed? Staying?
You need motion in second.
Oh, all right, I'll entertain a motion
Thanks.
from Jack. A second. Sarah. All right. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Alright.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay, acceptance of the justice audit. You all had a chance to go through that? If you haven't, I don't believe there's a time critical issue associated with this.
Well, yeah. I thought this was due.
Oh, that was due a year ago.
That's why it's not time critical.
I thought we got a notice that it from the state asking where it was.
We did, but lecture on that. This,
Okay.
it's the year there.
I would love. I mean, the questions I have for it can't be answered by us,
Right.
It would be by the auditors. I don't think there's anything that would prevent me from voting to accept it tonight, but I do think it kind of adds to the
You want me to?
lack of presentation of it in the last year leads me to lean on Jack's request for an RFP for it's going forward.
I agree with all of that said, but I can invite the auditors back to the next meeting for this purpose. I tell you the truth, didn't expect we would vote on it tonight. I guess the number one question is if you had an opportunity to read it.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So. If we want to defer, we'll defer, and I'll invite the auditors to come back and the judges to give us a little summary of.
But they I thought they presented this when we did our hometown on it.
No, I specifically asked them about the justice audit and they said, oh, we'll be back. I remember the question.
Okay,
Yeah, this is for 2022,
yep, well,
even last year.
correct. Yeah, so I'll ask, that's why we're on the list. Right, and so the 2 weeks on approval of this audit is not gonna change the fact that we're
late.
we're late. We're gonna be late on 2023 as well.
Is it feasible that we could get 2023 and have them present both?
I don't know the answer. That's a great question.
Based on the report, in my assumption, I think it is, but.
I think it's a great question and we can ask. So I'm writing down ask for 2023. And presentations together.
You were asking Sam of Young.
Yeah, I'll ask Sam. Yeah, yeah. Well, and Mike, listen, and Sam. Mike's the auditor. Okay, moving on, the sign moratorium, sign code approval process, Counselor Mannion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a sign moratorium, but I really think we need to review our sign code. With the bike run coming to town, with the whole 81 situation, funneling traffic and businesses to the town of DeWitt. I think our sign code is old. It's outdated. I think we need to look at the whole thing again. And also, it's a code issue. There's no surprise, we're short on code officers. But, I mean, just driving around, I see signs that are not in compliance. And it's becoming more and more. And at this point, I don't know, I mean, Matt, you might have an idea because you've been in there for a couple of months. How many temporary signs are even out there?
Temporary signs that we approve. For instance, we approved the Loud Pack banner, but they get 14 days before they put in their real sign. You know, those.
Oh, that sign went up about a month ago.
And
They're already out of compliance. I think it's really.
If you don't have codes, guys, if you don't have a codes department to monitor your code situation, it's gonna be a tough.
How many signs do we do a month?
I don't know. We get maybe once a week, 1 or 2 a week, maybe.
I'll be, if you email me every sign, I'll start keeping track of them. But I think these owners need to be, sent a letter that they're not in compliance. And that
Very difficult. That's the problem is so entrenched, right? So it's hard for us to tell people that they have to be held to some standard when they can go down the street and see that someone else is not being held to that standard. It makes it almost impossible to deny a sign like Pizza Cutters too, which you mentioned to me. How can I do it? We just approved one right at the same plaza and the same.
I'd like to.
I agree.
Get a resolution.
I agree with
from the board. Authorizing the code officer and the town of DeWitt to notify every non-conforming sign that's out of compliance.
I agree with that in principle.
And they'll have.
Signs are like a rat czar, but a sign czar.
If you read our sign code.
I mean, we don't have anybody in the planning department apparently that wants to do this. So I don't think it would be that difficult. I'll be happy to keep an Excel spreadsheet of when these signs come in.
Go through our sign code. It starts with the code. I mean, it is long and confusing, and I've never written a sign code, but I think it can be better. I mean, for sure.
I know it can be better.
You know, with Doug and I, probably the main thing that we cannot agree on, or we get confused on, is signs. It's so complicated.
Well,
And board saying one thing and.
Let's put a committee together. I'm happy to be on it. You can be on it. Anybody else on this board that wants to be on it, I can.
You should include several key members from the planning board.
At least one planning board member, at least one zoning board member.
What are the consequences? So you send the notice that you're out of compliance, then what? What's the next step?
I'm suggesting that we do a $50 per day fine or $25 per day fine until you're in compliance.
And then
Subject
what is
to.
the best, what's then the standard of compliance? Is it in that obscure zone?
Standard of compliance, there is a standard. If you go through our sign code, you'll see it. If you just peruse through it. It's hard to say what the standard is. There's permitted signs, there's sign plan, or, site plan review signs, there's temporary signs. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and there's some. It's just hard to say, I kind of.
Because I would ask, if that was me, you say, okay, $50 a day, I'm trying to hurry up and do it. So then what is the standard? Show me, what am I supposed to do?
You raise an excellent point.
I'm not being.
You raise an excellent point. I think that we have to determine what we want before we ask people to conform to that.
Here's what the code currently, the size of the building has restrictions.
Somewhere in our code.
Of the sign, right? So the bigger the building, the bigger you get on the face of your and then you get a side. You only get two signs, right? One on the face and pick a side. And the signs, and you can have a monument sign out in front, but there's restrictions on the size of that so that it can't affect sight lines.
I'll give an example. There's a ski company being put up over there on the corner of Bridge and Erie Boulevard. They have proposed signs that have Rossignol and other ski companies in the window. You might see a Dick's Sporting Goods, you go, and Under Armour and Nike. You could go all over, you go over to Wilson Jewelers, there's Rolex.
Those are windows.
Yeah, but that's not a sign. I'm talking about signs. No, you're off track. You can go and look at that shopping center on East Genesee Street, across street from Tops. Every one of those signs is temporary. They have banners and vinyl. There's 12, if there's 12 signs up there, 2 might be legal.
It looks bad.
It looks real bad.
They have banners that are stapled to the facade. That is not a legal sign. I'll be happy to review our code. That is not a conforming sign.
You're right.
You've got Kim's Taylor. You probably gave her that 2 months ago.
I didn't.
She's got a nice sign out front, and then she stapled a banner to the facade. That is not a conforming sign. And there's more and more people doing it, and the longer we let it languish, the worse it's gonna get. And we're torturing people, businesses on Erie Boulevard that come in. And let's just use Chick-fil-A for an example. They're gonna spend $3 million on their property. They're probably gonna spend $20,000 on their sign, and they're gonna drive down the street and they're gonna see the guy on the corner who's got a banner stapled to his house.
And gravity will have to blow up.
They're out there too. Those are right on East Genesee Street, the blow up thingies.
Oh, absolutely. And then so are the sandwich boards. I mean, signs are a mess.
I'm talking about permanent signs. I'm talking about sandwich boards.
But I think you gotta.
So just start at, you wanna just start at signs affixed to buildings. Those need to be.
But in succession, I don't care how you do it, you gotta carry it through all the way to sandwich.
Oh, no, absolutely. But I do see Carrie's point that it's just, there's one thing about the temporary sign that's left out too long, or the sandwich boards or the whatnot. But when you get to the stapling the banner onto the.
Agreed.
They've been there for years.
I'm just piling on. He doesn't want to touch
I'm excited.
We wouldn't let Sunoco put yellow on the corner of Oric and Erie Boulevard. You remember that fight? Because yellow is not allowed in our signs. And we took it to Shopping Plaza's Benderson. There's a couple tenants over in Marshall's Plaza.
We're the only Home Depot with green. Our Home Depot is very aesthetically pleasing, but drive by another one where they just bright orange and blows up.
So,
right, I mean.
Let's start small. Let's start with non-conforming signs that are banners. Let's at least give the code guys.
How do you expect to do any of this? Who's gonna perform all this?
Right,
I'll help you.
Me, I mean,
I'll help you.
Those department to do this.
I sent you a letter 3 weeks ago to send to the 2 owners of that East Genesee property. Where is it? I wrote it for you. I sent it to you. What more help can I give you? All you gotta do is put a stamp on that and send it out. This is not rocket science, but this is notifying people that they're not in compliance.
Okay, is this like the Joey DeCuffey and Joey DeCuffey was here many years ago with
that was last time we did it, probably 14 years ago.
Is that the kind of sign that you're talking about, like they have at the restaurants?
I don't know I don't even remember what Joey had.
Joey's Restaurant.
Joey's Restaurant.
He had a non-conforming sign and
We got him grandfathered in. We grandfathered him and others in at the time.
That's probably fine because he didn't have a banner that said, "Welcome to Joey," stapled to his old house.
It's now a moot point.
Yeah. But also, I mean, that was probably.
Barbara Gallo was here.
Because this code is what, 2008 was the, yeah, so that was.
It's time for an update. And I agree with everything Carrie said. I still don't have a code enforcement officer.
I'll be the quiet,
You start talking sign. That's gotta be.
Can you email me every time a sign is applied for? You just send me the email.
I will personally call you to discuss.
Don't even call me, just send me an email.
I like the idea of the committee. It's gonna take time to update the language and stuff. In the meantime, shall I call some others? Shall we try to get some part-time advice or guidance in on code enforcement? We'll talk about
Not
that.
talking executive. I would say.
Yeah,
you're
let's
definitely-
get that in executive session.
All jokes aside, you're right.
And I will ask the board,
You're right.
as they're driving around, if you see non-conforming signs, send me an email, say, hey, this address. Somehow we gotta start putting together a list. Because it's getting out of control.
Every sandwich board you.
I don't want sandwich boards. I don't care about sandwich
Talk about
signs.
people sign.
But again, when you start tearing down the banners, that guy's gonna look across the street at the sign in the window. It's been there forever that's not conforming. And then that person's gonna look at the sandwich board when you make them tear down the one in the window and say that's an illegal, because they're all gonna go through the code. When you make them tear down the thing, and so this is gonna cascade. The defense of anybody that's ever been in violation is what are you tolerating with the other guy? So every one of those.
I don't know, you can drive down East Genesee Street, the corridor.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just telling.
And I'm happy to
you
talk to
what's
any
gonna
owner,
happen.
anybody who's got a complaint.
I did some digging for you, Carrie, on that plaza. It's my understanding he's considering revamping all the signs on that side of the plaza. That he's thinking about it and doing
That's
it.
great, he's thinking about it, but he's been thinking about it. He paid a lot of money for that property 2 years ago. So he's been thinking about it for 2 years. Let's push him.
Saving up his money. I mean, he's gonna upgrade everything.
To Carrie's point, there seems to be a hierarchy to the signs in
Correct.
terms of visually what is more blasphemous. Could we just put a public notice out saying, starting March 1, Town of DeWitt is revitalizing compliance to signs, and this is the first category we will be looking at. And then people can't say that you're not public notice, and we'll have a calendar outlining when we will start transitioning through. So
I love
it's
it.
not a surprise, but then Carrie can ignore the sandwich board and go for the staple thing right now.
Understood, but what I'm trying to queue up is those other pieces. You can't do one without the other. It's just not gonna, the defense is gonna come. Could go across the street, that's in violation.
Everybody who's in Maryland Southwest Plaza who looks across the street is probably saying, why did we pay for a real sign? And those guys stapled a banner to
Most of
their
the signs in Mario Salvos have been there long term and those signs are pretty old.
New building has a nice sign.
New building has a nice sign.
Mario's nicest sign on the block.
Yes.
He's got a nice.
That is. Okay,
He's got a nice.
all right, so
Can I make a resolution? That we do?
you said you didn't want a moratorium.
I don't want a moratorium, that we're authorizing
Code enforcement.
code enforcement to notify all businesses in violation of the sign ordinance, and they have 30 days to get their sign into compliance.
And then what, this is the same thing as the issue I've had with, because I've been trying forever to get delinquent property owners to clean up. So what's the teeth of this? I mean, I think we need further discussion before we get a resolution on the table, because you gotta have a contingency plan of what you're gonna do with day 31. And
It's gotta be well thought out.
yeah, and I don't think there is a contingency plan, and you don't have an ordinance in place.
Day
It's an
31,
issue.
we're finding them.
Fix, Carrie. I don't think there's some quick snap your fingers fix to this. It's been festering for forever.
We're gonna have to pass a law that allows them. These people have enough money to get aware. I mean, they own a
Yes.
plaza.
We've got Manatoli Esquire.
And I think he's agreeing with me in the fact that you've gotta put.
All right, well, let's keep talking about it. But
Maybe a sub.
But I do agree, Jerry, it's something needs to happen.
Well, I don't mind sending a notice out, but I don't want to threat of 30 days.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I think if we just start and with our current enforcement, we just start putting out letters to things.
Yeah.
I think that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, send a letter now that says your sign's out of compliance. You need to rectify this, but you can't tell them in 30 days, you know. Fine,
Fine,
you
you
don't
can't
have
do
a
that.
law in place to find.
I think our sign code probably does allow it, but we'll look into it.
But that sign, quick question, yeah, so we can move. Say the plaza on Genesee Street, even the signage of coming in the correct way and going out the correct way is not at a height or a way where people always notice it. If you're not accustomed to going in or out the right way, you'll be going in the wrong way.
This is a ubiquitous issue. If you go into East Syracuse and look at the plaza on the corner of Kinney Street in Exeter. Yeah, if you go to Thompson Road, you take a look at some of the signs on those, I mean, this is Jamesville and the little plaza out at the railroad tracks. I mean, we have sign issues all over town.
But those entrance signs can become problematic during traffic, when high traffic next to the bank and people.
That plaza isn't, there's no parking either, so you got people circling around over
Yeah.
and over and over, waiting for a spot.
Tough.
I've done exactly what you just described in that.
Plaza on Denver.
What plaza park going.
Yeah.
Just, if we talk about
I
sign.
think, like I say, I think this is a huge issue. It's gotta have a code enforcement officer.
Step one, get a code enforcement department. Step two, we enforce the codes.
We
Step
still
three,
got the code enforcement guy from coming in March.
Still coming in March, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know.
I thought something happened, but we two were saying.
Jerry's put a hand on the sign list.
You take me.
That's what I was saying. In all seriousness, I'll look at the letter and send a letter. I have no problem helping. I'll look at the letter.
Again, I will ask the board as they're driving around. Seriously.
I'm gonna send you one.
I will, I'll send you anything that's.
I'm not gonna send you the address. I'm gonna send you the picture.
I gotta get it.
Figure out where the sign is.
I don't think there's that many of them that we start now. Before it even gets worse.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with him, the letter, but
We have people paying a lot of real estate taxes on Erie Boulevard, and it's not fair what we've done.
Is the smoke shop on Pickwick, that one, is that stapled up too?
You mentioned it to me. I haven't like taken a close look at it, but it probably is.
That's just glass paper vapor.
Yeah.
I think it's a legitimate sign.
I think it's glued.
Can you give me that sign permit too? Let's,
I'll dig up the permit tomorrow.
you probably approved it.
boy.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, next, we'll turn it over.
Okay, I swear, we'll get through these quickly.
Yeah.
So, first one is adding a clerk one position in planning and zoning. We've talked about having extra clerk out there in planning and zoning. There is a clerk one test that was taken in the end of 2023. It is not graded. There are no results, no list yet. So I think once that list is out, we're going to want to canvass that list to try and find a clerk one for planning and zoning. But we only have one clerk one slot in planning and zoning, which Leah is in. So we will need to add another slot. So this is just an approval to petition civil service for another clerk one position in planning and zoning.
We already have funds allocated in the budget year.
Well, I don't know if we actually have, I would have to go check to see. The funds, I will say, the revenue that has come in with the new fees has been high. And so we should be able to afford it, but I can confirm with Carrie, but this is step one. Step two would be authorizing the post. And step three would actually be hiring somebody, so.
You're gonna eliminate a, part-timer?
Not. This would give us the ability to maybe eventually, but the intention is not to get rid of one of those people. And this probably, same thing, if we went with splitting, we've talked about it in the past. Codes and planning, one of these clerk ones could end up going with codes.
What day is this list released?
When everybody gets around to it, it could be months still, so.
Baffled.
As everyone is when dealing with civil
All
service.
that position, if that's never posted, it's to hire someone, and then the risk when the appointed list comes out, yeah.
Well, yeah, so actually, the only way we'd be able to do it now you can't even hire someone provisionally unless they took the test. You can only hire from the list of people that took the test.
Wait for the results.
And then wait for the results, which then they might not get.
They might not have even passed.
Right, and then you're obligated to the top three, so you hire a person, you're in the position. Someone outside is gotta replace them.
Yeah, so we're not aiming, this is more of just getting it on the roster so that we can. Because I don't know how long it's gonna take to get back to Monmouth County Civil Service either.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion from Max. Can I have a second from Sarah? Call for the vote. All in favor?
All right.
Let's give. Now we're gonna vote on establishment of a position for the clerk one position of planning and zoning. So I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Okay, ZBA member.
Yes, an acquaintance of Matt, who is a resident of DeWitt. Business owner, his family, he's previously owned business or in DeWitt. His family still owns a business in DeWitt. He personally owns a business in Manlius.
Bayville, yep. Manlius.
Yeah, but we're looking to add him. We still have one vacant position on the ZBA. Hasn't mattered because they haven't met yet.
For him, yes.
And this would, it would be a 2-year term. So if he likes it, it's 2 years and we can.
This is a full-time position of a seat that has been.
This is the seat that Tom Corello resigned.
Well, okay.
Why does he want to be on it?
He wants to be more involved in the community. My pitch to him was, hey, it's good for your image. You'll get to learn a lot about the community and be involved and tell people that you're part of the zoning board.
I personally know Nick as well.
Smart guy. He went to Colgate.
Be a great asset.
He's a JD grad.
And it would be great to get some young blood into our systems.
And we don't, and although I will say that from most of the people that we have added to the ZBA, the average age of the ZBA has dropped probably by half, especially with Nick.
We have a great group. Excited.
But one thing there is not is a business owner on the ZBA, so this will add a different perspective.
And for what it's worth, please continue to recruit because we have 2 alternate positions vacant. So this is filling a 2-year spot, permanent roster, but there's still 2 alternates. And the goal of alternates is to get somebody committed. It doesn't have to jump into a 7-year appointment.
Yeah.
And they get to feel out whether they like it. And if they want it, and then they're next on the appointment. So at the end of next year, somebody's term will expire. If we choose not to appoint that individual to another 7 years, the alternate slides in. And so it's a good, it's a good system. It works well. And so please continue to search for members. Okay, I'll entertain a motion from Max, a second from Sarah. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
Okay, so similar to the clerk 1 position in planning and zoning. There are 2 positions to add in the water department, and I don't turn it over to Rocco to talk in a minute about how these fit in with the long-term plans for the department, but the two positions are a water maintenance crew leader and a water maintenance worker 2. Both of these they're both civil service, but they're non-competitive positions, so there's no tests. We would be looking at most likely an internal promotion for the water maintenance crew leader position. And looking outside for a water maintenance worker 2. And which the water maintenance worker 2 will is necessary for us doing more of the work ourselves on replacements and repairs. So I don't know, Rocco, what do you wanted to add to that for these two positions?
Correct. Yes. Like to look for a crew leader, much like I have with a highway and Ryan Goff in the parks. Someone, when I'm not around, would have the authority and can work in the field with the staff. For the crew leader position. So for the water maintenance worker 2 is just trying to build this water department to be sustainable in the future. We've talked about this numerous times. I've talked about this a lot of years ago. But we'd like to be able to do more of this maintenance in-house. So with these positions, we haven't budgeted for them. This is just get them on our roster so we can plan for the future, is to have someone, get someone with experience for fixing valves, hydrants, curb boxes, the general maintenance that we use in Malone for now that I think we can do internally during the day. Regularly schedule, you know what I mean, when the curb box leaking. Right now, we're using Malone, where I think I've said for years we should do all that in-house. So this is moving, planning for the future, kind of like with the office up there, like, you know, planning, getting another position filled eventually when this clerk 1 comes out. If we do go forward with a meter program, we're gonna want someone trained. And we're gonna have a lot of calls, we're gonna have a lot of people with a lot of questions, so we wanna have staff. It's knows our system, can answer those questions and can help moving the whole new program forward. Any questions?
Yeah, what's your timeline to bring them online?
Go ahead. I don't see nothing this year, honestly. We would have to look at the budget and tell you for budget for next year possible. But the crew leader possibly this year, yes.
Okay, crew leader possibly this year. And is
Yes.
it possible that if we drop Malone, that we can absorb some of that money into a salary, or do you already have plans for where that?
Don't think it would ever probably drop Malone
Okay.
in the immediate future for the bigger breaks, overnight, stuff like that. I mean, the ultimate goal, maybe years down the road, is building, you know, if we have revenue coming in and this department becomes sustainable, like I feel it will, then I think you could probably someday staff up for that, but I think
Okay.
you're a long ways away.
Okay.
The goal is to do like a lot of this stuff in-house. During the day, regularly scheduled.
For what it's worth, I was gonna add the commentary, when years ago, there was at least 4.5 dozen contractors in the area that were available and wanting to bid on our repairs contract. Our repairs contract has ballooned in cost over the years to the number of contractors that want to do this work is greatly diminished. So we don't have the ability to haggle on this kind of stuff and lower costs, but our costs are huge. I believe the contractor right now, Malone, would welcome us taking on this type of repair because even they totally consumed on some of this stuff. And so, as he said, if they were to walk, we'd be in serious jeopardy right now. There's not, I don't know of another contractor out there that will repairs work to get. It's getting harder and harder to find a person that wants to get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, get up and go out, freezing weather, and jump in a hole that's all wet and full of water. They could repair on a bike stuff. And so this is a sign of the times, but we it's gonna take us time to get there. We need to go in that direction if we're gonna continue to run the water department.
The other thing I would say to the crew leader position, I think if we were, the intention, correct me if I'm wrong, was if we were to do a promotional into that, that it wouldn't necessarily involve filling the position left behind.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be another person. It would be an increase, obviously, in salary. But whatever that rate is of increase would have to
It's a
come back to
percentage
the
versus
board.
the full line.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
And just
work with the unions.
And then, yeah, that's a part of it. So that's why there's some time frame in there for that one as well. The other thing I did want to say, though, from a long-term standpoint, the way civil service works, the crew leader position is the listed prerequisite for the water distribution operator, which is what Matt Reynolds' title was, which is part of our issue long-term here. We don't even have the titles necessary, right, without the crew leader to train somebody up to take that job, which is partly why we were stuck trying to find somebody outside, which we were unable to do. So,
And actually, just to touch on that a little bit further, we have to come up with a succession plan for Sean Rush for the health department. And this would kind of all fold into that when we prepare this plan. You know what I mean? This is the board's plan on building and sustaining this department, training, whoever that may be to be the crew leader, be the, the operator eventually too.
In fact, it'd be good to tell the board simply what your plans are for the licenses.
Yep, I talked to Ed a little bit and I'll try to come back with we got a lot to get through tonight, but we'll talk more, but we hired 2 laborers. So I have Mitch who was here, he who was hired last February. So this May, we've signed up Mitch and Chuck to go for a Class D license, which is a 32-hour course down in Cortland. So the goal is to get them their D license. And then in the fall, we would like to sign them back up for a B license, which is the more the chlorine aspect of it. It's a little bit more intense, a little bit more knowledge needed, and that's what we really need with us injecting fluorine in our system. So I told Ed hopefully by the end of the year, my goal is to have 3 B operators in the department. And then send Jesse in the fall for his D license, because we just hired him maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And then the same thing with him, get him his D and then push him to the B. And one of the nice things with keeping our part-time operator, Jerry McCarthy, on is they have to work under somebody for a year. So if we keep Jerry on mentoring these guys when we go to the health department, because they have to approve their license, they do a walk around with them. And this, I think, will help us to get them their Bs quicker.
Nice.
You know what I mean? He has 25+ years in the industry.
Does Ben get his B?
Ben has his B, and that's some of the reasons there's more discussions to be had about, yes.
and there will be, we're going to go forward with the union on the B and the D. We would like to look for a way to recognize, compensate people for getting the B and D licenses, which help the town. So we'll be reaching out to the unions for that.
Compensate last time.
Yeah, he was able to get a step and now he's at top step, so that's why we gotta.
The way we did it last time is not the way we should continue.
Absolutely, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Okay, so let's do this separately, right? Each title.
Yes.
So we authorize, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the water maintenance crew leader. Max, a second from Jack. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. I'll entertain a motion from Max and a second from Jack again. To authorize the water maintenance worker 2. Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried.
Okay, and then the last one that I had here was the environmental planner position. We have a candidate. His resume was sent out with the start date and the salary. He's agreed. He's very much looking forward to it. And I think this really opens up a lot of opportunities for us to actually get some projects moving.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion from Max. Second. From Sarah, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. There is one issue I'd like to talk about in executive session related to the next topic. And it, so that we don't discuss a person in public setting. So I'd like to defer that. So I'll move on to the check update, the check warrant. Anybody in issues? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Carrie, a second from Max. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. Okay, town board updates. Buddy,
You may have gotten an email, I think it went out to the town board, just this afternoon. Finally got heard back from New York State. They actually sent out the orders for the speed, the school zone, on Nottingham Road. So I was gonna talk to you about whether, you know, we need to coordinate with the county or whatever it is to actually get the signs and
That went.
everything up. Just came today.
Who would have sent it?
Kate, yeah, it was for.
Oh, that, I couldn't open the attachment. It says the file was crushed. Is that what it was for then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the notice of
Okay.
order.
Yeah, I
that-
couldn't open it, but
yeah.
okay.
Mine opened up.
Yeah, I got, yeah, so. Progress.
yeah,
Thank you.
And the other update, Ed, if we want to talk about it,
No, I don't.
is the OSIDA proposal that was sent out.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of hit in the press, and I don't know if everybody read it. I think Kate sent it out to everybody.
Which one?
The one we had to reserve in advance. So is that-
No, this is OSIDA sent out a change to their
but
Subdivision?
pilot agreements.
Oh, pilot, they changed the pilot agreement?
So they added.
their ability to establish new pilots.
The
And so
ability,
they did a new schedule. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
the ability and a new schedule for residential projects, multifamily projects where they're going to,
Oh, okay.
give some pretty hefty tax exemptions to encourage development of housing units.
Mhm.
So I don't know if we want to talk about it tonight or if we want to just put it on the agenda and have a richer discussion, but I believe the county ledge or OSIDA is meeting maybe on Thursday to even vote on it. And many of the towns have asked them to slow down a little bit, give us a little chance to review it. I did send it a letter in. Asking for a sit down and a discussion, haven't heard back. I'm pretty sure all the other towns did too, as a matter of fact.
I'd like to understand it.
Here's what my understanding is, and I haven't had a chance to get into it either, but I did see it. And what they're allowing for these residential development to be available or optional to establish a pilot. So a developer can come in like this already have today, and you could make his project. It's like a good grant them. And as you know, we have no control, right? Well, OSIDA has done this. I've always struggled with these pilot agreements and who gets them and how and why, and so we go on that forever. But we have no control, and so developers can go to OSIDA, they can get a pilot agreement now. You know, typically it's been over a project like Chapel. Playground or whatever, a larger development. Now housing developments are eligible for these pilots. And they start out paying zero tax. The schedule that they propose is a 10-year schedule for a housing development project, starting with zero contribution the first year, 10% the second, third, you know, for 10 years. And after 10 years, they're fully on board with the, and so, again, we're not opposed to housing, we're not. I have a philosophical opposition to pilots in general. But I do understand the utility and how they work, and
have the school districts expressed, I mean,
When the school districts found out, that's one of the things that's kind of being run through. They sent the notice of it either last week or the end of the week prior, and they're enacting it this week. And I don't believe school districts.
so there, I mean, I guess it was one of the things with the industrial, that was always the argument, industrial or the business was like, okay, well, they're, you know, they're not paying quite the same on the school taxes, but they're not actually making any more expense to the schools, whereas you build 100 units of housing and you don't give any money to the school district. I mean, it's bad for us. The schools just get killed on that.
We're gonna carry it in property taxes.
Yeah.
And then all of the other municipalities.
Yeah, everybody else that's not contributing to that, or, yeah. in that
And
school
if
district,
we're
that's
a
rough.
high-end rental building on top of it, you know, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. So anyways, Carrie called me and told me that town supervisors were all get together and put drivers and stop it. We didn't have a board meeting that buried, so I said, yeah, go ahead and send them in. I was asking for more time and,
Yeah, I think, and definitely asking for more time.
It's a little bit of a sticky situation. I mean, Kathy Hochul is out there, you know, we've got a Democratic governor and a Republican county exec. on the Same page. They want new housing bill.
yeah.
They acknowledged you, Terry? Did they acknowledge the letter or was it by mail?
I had Ange email it in and I don't think.
They acknowledged receipt of it?
It was a sign on. A sign on or you did individual?
I did an individual letter.
Okay.
He signed his name to it.
Right. No, I'm saying good.
Oh,
Good. Yeah, I don't-
I'm pretty sure most of the towns, at least half the towns, sent a letter and asking that they slow it down again.
If you wanna follow up, we can have a. Say ditto and send it in tomorrow with the, as the town board.
I would not have a problem with Ed sending a letter from the town, or whatever, from the town board saying, please slow down so that we can actually understand what you're doing and
right.
say something.
At all.
Yeah, it was info.
So, yeah, I'll do that. I'll send. Take Carrie's letter and put my name on it. No.
And do we have a pulse on the schools, Carrie? Do you have a pulse on if the schools are even in the loop on this, other than maybe hearsay?
No idea.
Maybe we
Stay
bring
on
them in?
the town board.
I can reach out to the school, to JD and see if there's any, you wanna reach out to ESM, Jack?
I'm trying to remember, because in years past, JD did not participate in pilot programs. I don't know how they did that. Remember, remember ESM was always. But JD pretty much cut the door, said, we're not, I don't know if the schools have that authority still, or.
I don't think they do. I don't know.
Remember?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know how do you do it.
if you brought in, if you're looking for a pilot agreement.
Shopping
down
town
with-
collapsed in part because we couldn't get a pilot. That's what I'm saying, philosophically opposed to pilots, but there are certain systems. Shopping town owners came to us back in the day, the assessment was 53 million and they had a mortgage of 37 million. They said, if we don't get a pilot, we're defaulting. So we scrambled and tried to accommodate it, but we never got it done in time and they defaulted on their mortgage and.
I don't think that was even a pilot, that was just a reduction of assessment.
Oh, we had a pilot with it.
Did we?
Yeah.
Terry, can you help explain what the school district interest in is? Where would they play or not play in a pilot? How did JD say no? I don't understand what they would be saying yes or no to. Aren't they just a passive entity in this case?
I mean, when Ed and I, Ed's been on the board longer than I have, but back in 2000 or whatever, for 20 years, it was pretty much well known, if you're looking for a pilot agreement, make sure you're outside of the Janesville DeWitt School District.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
What is a pilot agreement? Other than going ESM about it, what is a pilot agreement? What are you talking?
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Right. If you have a facility that's worth just 29. And, you know, rather than pay taxes on a full facility, the Onondaga County Industrial Development Agencies puts a payment in lieu of taxes contract together. And they put a schedule together, and usually they give the school district a little bit. But in general, if the assessment flows from 0% or some starting point percentage of the value and worked up to the actual assessment in a 10-year time frame. So county, town, and school districts take a reduction in payments through that contract. And OSIDA has their public hearings here, when they have them, they've had some of them. I mean, most recently, we were noticed that the development at Kinney Street. Crossbow development that we put in place is now getting a pilot agreement. Personally felt that was not.
I don't know if OSIDA says no to anybody.
I would support that if I were on OSIDA. That project was. It is what it is.
But this is new as multifamily residential. I mean, I don't know how long a site has been in existence, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. They have never. I think they broke the rules once or twice here or there. But they just would not give a pilot agreement to a residential.
Okay. Any other updates? Believe it or not, again, we have a pretty full executive session schedule. I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session from Joe, second from Sarah. Call for the vote. All in favor?
I'm opposed, staying.
Motion's carried. Okay, we get into a little moment to disconnect.
Oh, geez, I almost didn't do any of that.
What?
I almost didn't do any of that. I think you said something.